Hey everybody, I'm out here getting ready to do some fall trolling, and before I get out on the water I wanted to talk to you guys about the Slasher series of baits from B&N Custom. These are a Lake St. Clair style trolling bait. They're all made with Western red cedar, stainless steel hardware. They're epoxied in screw eyes. They all come in a jointed or straight version. One that I really like a lot is the Scrubby Slasher. This thing's a combination of an 8-inch stubby crank and the Kalin's Magambo grub. Faster troll this. Trolling anywhere from 3 to 5 mile an hour. It gives that just real nice wobble. The tail's just a whipping around. Really great attractant. More of an aggressive bait because you have that dual action with it. Just like with a jointed bait, you've got that shimmy and then the back end doing its thing, knocking back and forth. So this is a more aggressive bait, something that I like working in the fall. The body's 5.5 inches long, 1.5 inches wide, 1 1/8 inch tall. It's got a polycarbonate lip. It's 3/16 of an inch thick, and then when you stretch it out, it's about 12 inches in total length. Hook placement's key on this. If they come up and try for the tail, they're going to get a hook. Head hunting, middle body shot, they're going to get a hook. This bait, in addition to trolling when you cast it, you can run it really close or on top of the surface, and it's just shimmying along and that tail's just flapping and splashing the water. So really cool, unique bait. This is something they've had out for quite a while now. Awesome bait. Put it in your lineup. You know, when you're trying to think what's big, what's small, what do you need to be trolling on your body of water, sometimes the profile of, say, a deep threat from the Talons lineup is not as good on your body of water as one of these slashers. It's got that long profile, but it's narrow. It's different vibrations, different actions in the water. This is the Magnum Slasher, the straight model. 10 inches long, again, Western red cedar. This one features a rounded lip. And it will reach about 15 foot when you're trolling, which is a pretty good, you know, starting point. And then you have the more aggressive jointed version. When that's going through the water, as you'll see, either side of me, I don't know where I'm going to put it yet, but as you see here, it's just more of an aggressive action because you've got the head roll, or you got the belly roll, you've got the shimmying, but now in addition to the shimmying, you're shimmying and knocking, just giving that tail whip, more of an aggressive bait. So as the water temperatures get colder and you're slowing down, I tend to get more aggressive and throw the jointed styles. So again, this is the 10-inch Magnum Slasher. Let's look at the next one in the lineup. We've got the Stubby Slasher. These are very unique. They're similar profiles. As you can see, they're just downscaled versions. These are 6.5 inches long. Again, jointed, straight version. Sometimes in the fall, these are a good option to go to. I typically would troll something like this more in the spring or summer, but in the fall, you know, it can work. It depends really on where you're fishing, what your forage base is, and you know, if you're casting and you're getting fish on giant baits, you know it's probably a giant bite that they want. Now, even saying that, muskies don't always just go for the giant bait in the fall. They do tend to go after forage that's going to have them expend as little energy as possible. They want to get that big, juicy, meaty bite. So say you're in an area where you have Cisco's as forage, you're going to probably want a bigger bait. Not to say that a smaller bait wouldn't have its time and place, especially in fall, but versus a shad-based lake, you're not going to be wanting to run giant baits like that. Not to say that they won't work. I primarily live in a shad-based area where that's our primary forage, that and panfish, and I get 10, 12, and 14-inch baits bit all the time. It's just a triggering aspect with the fish. They're going to eat what they want when they want. That's muskies. There's no rhyme or reason to what they do. You just try to narrow it down and do the best you can. That's why if you're able to troll multiple lines, you want to have a pretty diverse spread. So I'd have some of my big 10, 12-inch baits out. I would have some of my smaller baits out, and then whatever gets bit, I adjust from there and start, you know, putting everything out similar to that. If you're in a state like Minnesota or you're in Canada where you can only troll one line per person, it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge, because you're going to end up wanting to spend more time changing baits to see what's going to get bit versus letting the bait do its job and stay in the water. So that's where you're going to have a downfall in trying to figure things out, unless you have that past experience of, you know, this is going to work. If I was in that situation, I'd probably, if I'm trolling a good spot and I'm marking fish, I'd troll it 3 or 4 different times, you know, go through one way, if they don't hit, come back through the other way, still don't hit, adjust my line, change my depths a little, maybe change my speed, then go back and forth through it. If you're doing that multiple times, you're not getting bit, that's when I'll probably start changing my lure selection, put a different presentation down there to see what they want to eat. But again, that's the Stubby Slasher. The regular Slasher here is 7 inches long and trolls up to 5 miles an hour. It's best at about 4.3 seems to be where we're finding it. You get a mid-depth range with these, somewhere between 7 and 9 feet. Again, you have that smaller profile, narrow tail kick, and the aggressive action of a jointed bait. Great baits, great presentation. Like I said, even in fall when traditionally you want big baits, these will work in the fall. It's just finding the fish that wants to eat. You know, maybe they want something small up in the water column. They just had a big snack. They want a little bit more. They don't want to expend a lot of energy. You're slow trolling these, say in the prop wash or just, 5-10 foot back, not very far down. That's where these will excel. So these are the Slashers, straight and jointed. So now let's talk about what out of the Slasher series, what's probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite in the lineup. And that is the Stubby Magnum Slasher. They just have that, sometimes you look at a bait and you just get a feeling like that's the one. That's what I feel when I see these. They seem like they're the perfect thickness, very decent length for the fall. They're 8 inches. An 8-inch bait is not necessarily a big bait in the muskie world. We've got 20-inch crankbaits out on the market that people use and do get bit, by the way. Not on the waters where I live, but somewhere. This is the straight version. These were tested in 2010 and 2011 when they came out, and they had multiple fish over 50 inches on them. This is the straight model. Like I said, very thick profile. Just looks amazing in the water. Hook placement's pretty on point. It's more of a shallower running bait for me that I've noticed, but it works great. Now the jointed model, I really like this color pattern. So much so that I did not want to include it in the video because I didn't want anybody else to see it. I know Nick has it available to the public, but I just really, really love it. I cannot remember the name of it to save my life. I believe it's chocolate perch, but the browns and the gold scale in it just looks amazing in the water, especially clear water where I fish. Even the stained water, it looks good. This is probably my favorite, and again, it's got that joint in it, just that little bit more of an aggressive action. When I see casting, if I see a muskie or if I'm trolling, I want to make that fish angry. I want it to attack the bait. I want it to come in and kill it. So I try to be more aggressive in my presentations. There's a time when finesse is key, but not for me, not typically in my boat. If I'm finesse fishing, I'm ripping hooks into its face. Like I want that fish to eat, so I tend to go with more aggressive options when I can, and this is probably one of my favorite ones, just that jointed aggressiveness. And I've said that 3 or 4 times now, probably more. Maybe we'll do an aggressive counter in the corner. How many times I've said that, but aggression is key. Typically, like I said, that's one of my go-to things, is just I want aggression, especially as the colder it gets, the more lethargic the fish get. I want to be in their face. I want them to react. I want them to strike and hit my bait. So check them out. I'll put links in the description to B&N Custom. These are great baits. They'll be at the Chicago show. I believe he said Muskie Max as well. I talked to him right after I did the deep threat video, and of course I can't remember. I got a lot of things going on, but they will be in Chicago for sure, and I'll probably be in and out of their booth a little bit as well. So if you guys have any questions, if you want to see more about these baits or need any questions answered that I didn't answer in this video, leave me a comment, message me on Facebook, and I'll get back to you. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up there. If you guys have any questions, again, leave them in the comments below. All my information's there. There's information to look up these baits, and we'll see you guys out on the water. Have a great fall and catch a big one.